Hello, everyone, and welcome.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going really small to explore something huge E.
I like when you set it up like that.
Well, today we're talking telomeres.
Telomeres.
You've probably heard of them. They're like the caps on our chromosomes.
Right, like the protective tips.
Yeah, but get ready for some surprises because there's way more to these tiny structures than most people realize.
What's fascinating to me is how these tiny telomeres actually have this massive role in how our cells age.
It's true. I mean, we hear about telomeres and aging, but it's mind-boggling when you really think about it,
It is.
that something so small can have such a huge impact on our bodies. So before we get into all that, let's back up for a sec.
Sure.
What exactly are telomeres?
Okay, so picture this. Your chromosomes, which carry all your genetic information, imagine them like shoelaces.
Okay, shoelaces, I'm with you.
Telomeres are like those little plastic tips on the end, the aglets that stop the shoelace from fraying.
Right.
They protect the ends of our chromosomes from damage or from accidentally fusing with each other, which would be bad news.
Yeah, that sounds pretty disastrous for our cells.
A total mess.
Okay, I'm picturing it. But obviously, telomeres aren't made of plastic. What are those protective caps actually made of?
So they're made of these repetitive DNA sequences.
Repetitive, like a pattern.
Exactly. It's like a code, but it's repeated over and over and over again. And here's the thing.
What's that?
Every time a cell divides, that sequence, that telomere, it gets a little bit shorter.
So every time a cell divides, it loses a little bit of its telomere. That doesn't sound sustainable.
That's the thing. It's this phenomenon called the telomere end replication problem. Basically, the way our DNA gets copied, it can't quite reach the very end of the chromosome during the copying process.
Wait, so our cells are losing a tiny bit of DNA with every single division. Why haven't they evolved a workaround?
Well, there's an enzyme called telomerase. This enzyme can actually add those DNA sequences back onto the telomeres.
Oh, okay. So there's a way to fix it. Problem solved for it.
You wish. If only it were that easy.
Yeah, there's always a catch.
Here's the thing. Most of our cells, except for a few special types like stem cells, they have very limited telomerase activity.
Hold on. So our bodies have this tool to fix the telomeres, but they barely use it. It's like having a lifetime supply of shoelace protectors and just letting your laces fray.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah.
And that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Why would our bodies evolve this way? Why not just keep those telomeres topped up all the time?
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive.
Right. It's this delicate balancing act, and we're still trying to understand all the reasons why our bodies do this.
So it's like our cells have this built-in expiration date.
Yeah. You can think about it that way. Like once those telomeres get too short, the cell's like, okay, time to retire.
And that's what causes aging.
Well, it's a piece of the puzzle. I mean, aging is super complicated, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But basically, when those telomeres get short enough, the cell can't divide anymore.
So it can't make new cells.
Right. And it also stops functioning as well. It's like hitting that wall.
Yeah.
And scientists call this replicative senescence.
Replicative senescence. Catchy. So cells get old, they retire, they stop working as well.
Exactly. But
What?
it's not as simple as saying short telomeres equal short lifespan.
Yeah.
We all know people who seem much younger or older than they actually are, right?
Totally. So what's going on there?
Well, telomere length, it can vary a lot between individuals, even between different organs in your body.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that, that different organs could be aging at different rates.
It's wild, right?
It is. So besides just getting older, what else causes telomeres to shrink?
Well, remember how we talked about telomerase, that enzyme that can rebuild the telomeres?
Yeah, our body's built-in shoelace protector kit that we barely use.
Exactly. Most of our cells only produce tiny amounts of it. And to make things worse, certain lifestyle factors can actually make those telomeres shrink even faster.
Oh, no. Like what? Don't tell me my love of late-night pizza is catching up to me.
Well, let's just say that chronic inflammation and oxidative stress, those aren't doing your telomeres any favors.
And that's caused by...
Things like, processed foods, pollution, lack of sleep.
Okay, I get it. So basically, I need to eat my veggies, get some sleep, and maybe lay off the pepperoni.
It can't hurt.
Right.
But seriously, these things all contribute to cellular damage, which can damage telomeres and make them unravel faster.
Wow. I'm starting to think these tiny telomeres are a pretty big deal.
They are.
So we've got these tiny timekeepers in our cells. They shorten as we age, and an unhealthy lifestyle can speed things up. What happens when those telomeres get really short, like critically short?
Well, that's when we start to see the link between telomere dysfunction and actual diseases.
Like what?
One example is a rare genetic disorder called Dyskeratosis congenita, or DC for short.
Quick, easy.
In this condition, people have mutations in the genes that are responsible for maintaining their telomeres. So basically, they're born with much shorter telomeres than usual.
So they're starting life with their shoelaces already frayed.
In a way, yeah. And because telomeres are so important for cell division, people with DC experience a lot of health problems.
Like what kind of problems?
It often affects their skin, their nails, their bone marrow, their lungs.
Oh, wow. That's really rough. Is there anything that can be done for people with DC?
Scientists are working on developing therapies, but it's tough. One of the really heartbreaking things about DC is something called disease anticipation.
Disease anticipation, what is that?
So people with DC, they can pass those shorter telomeres on to their children.
Oh.
And their children might develop the disease even earlier in life, and it might even be more severe.
Wow. It's like a cycle that's really hard to break.
Exactly.
This is definitely giving me a new perspective on how we impact future generations. But it's not all doom and gloom, right? I mean, scientists are researching ways to use this knowledge about telomeres for good, aren't they?
They are. And this is where things get really interesting. Remember how I said that short telomeres can make your DNA unstable, which can increase your risk of cancer?
Yeah, it seemed like a double-edged sword.
It is. So short telomeres, they might be bad for aging, but they actually protect against cancer in a way because they limit how many times a cell can divide.
Oh, that makes sense.
But here's the twist. Cancer cells, they're clever. They can actually reactivate that telomerase enzyme, the one we were talking about earlier.
Shoelace protector.
Exactly. They reactivate it and basically make themselves immortal.
Wow. So they found a way to cheat the system.
Basically. Which is why scientists are looking at ways to inhibit telomerase.
Yeah.
But only in cancer cells.
So block the cancer cells from using the telomerase, but leave the healthy cells alone.
Exactly.
So we could potentially use telomerase to fight cancer. That's amazing.
It's also a little scary, right?
I get that. It's definitely a balancing act. But scientists are getting really good at developing targeted therapies, ones that zero in on the cancer cells specifically and leave the healthy cells alone.
That's good to hear. It makes you wonder, though, if we can measure someone's telomeres right now, could we, predict how long they're going to live?
It's a question everyone wants the answer to, right? Right. Imagine having that crystal ball.
Yeah. But unfortunately, it's not that straightforward. Biology is rarely that simple. Telomere length definitely gives us clues about cellular aging, but it's only one small piece of a much larger, more complicated puzzle.
So no peeking into the crystal ball just yet. Okay, so if we can't predict the future with telomeres, what about manipulating them? Could we actually slow down or even reverse aging by, lengthening our telomeres?
The million-dollar question.
Oh,
It sounds like science fiction, but scientists are actually working on telomere-based therapies right now
no way.
to try to do exactly that. Combat age-related diseases by targeting telomeres.
Wow. So the future is closer than we think.
Maybe. But this is where things get tricky. We have to be really cautious. Remember how we talked about those crafty cancer cells hijacking telomerase to become immortal?
Yeah?
That's why messing with telomere length is so risky. If we just go around lengthening everyone's telomeres willy-nilly, we could accidentally increase the risk of cancer.
Oh, right. There's always a trade-off.
Exactly. It all comes back to that balancing act.
It's fascinating, though, isn't it? I mean, just thinking about all this makes you realize how complex our bodies are.
Absolutely.
And how even the tiniest things, these tiny little telomeres, can have these huge ripple effects.
It's true. This whole field of research just highlights how much we still don't know.
Yeah. It's like every answer leads to a million more questions.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so exciting. Who knows what we'll discover next?
Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us today and taking us on this incredible journey to the ends of our DNA.
My pleasure. It's been fun.
And to our listeners, thanks for diving in with us today. Be sure to check out the show notes for more information, links to research, all that good stuff. And until next time, keep exploring.
Please subscribe to my channel.